For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of July 12, 2005, 23-year-old twin sisters Paige Rogers and Kara Whitmore left their campsite near a trailhead in Colorado's Sangre de Cristo Range, documenting their adventure for their travel blog. They never returned. Despite an extensive search involving local authorities and volunteers, the sisters vanished without a trace. For 20 years, their family lived with agonizing uncertainty, clinging to the hope that one day they would learn what happened to Paige and Kara. Then, in the summer of 2025, climbers made a chilling discovery beneath a massive rockslide. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Paige Rogers and Kara Whitmore. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Paige and Kara Rogers, identical twin sisters, were inseparable. Born just minutes apart, they shared a love for adventure that fueled their popular travel blog, 2 Roads, 1 Journey. Their online presence showcased breathtaking photographs and captivating stories from their explorations across the American West, inspiring thousands to embrace the wilderness. In the summer of 2005, their journey took them to the rugged peaks of the Sangre de Cristo Range in southern Colorado. Their planned route, meticulously documented on their blog and shared with family, outlined a multi-day backpacking trip starting at the Willow Creek trailhead, culminating in a climb to the summit of Humboldt Peak. Maps posted online showed their intended campsite near a small alpine lake, nestled beneath the imposing shadow of the mountain. The sisters meticulously packed their gear, checking and rechecking their supplies. Their final blog post, time-stamped the day before their departure, buzzed with anticipation for the challenging climb and the stunning views that awaited them. On the evening of July 12, 2005, Paige and Kara arrived at the Willow Creek trailhead. Fellow hikers reported seeing the twins setting off, their backpacks laden with camping gear, their faces bright with excitement. They were last seen heading towards the switchbacks leading into the higher elevations. That night, a violent storm swept through the Sangre de Cristo Range. Torrential rain lashed the mountains, and the wind howled through the canyons. The storm raged for hours, echoing through the valleys. The next morning, the skies cleared, revealing the raw power of the overnight deluge. When Paige and Kara failed to check in with their family or update their blog, concern quickly turned to alarm. Michelle Gonzalez, their mother, immediately contacted park authorities. A search and rescue operation was launched, involving park rangers, local volunteers, and search dogs. The initial search focused on the area around the twins' planned campsite. The terrain was treacherous, the trails slick with mud and debris from the storm. Searchers combed the area, calling out the sisters' names, their voices swallowed by the vastness of the mountains. Helicopters scanned the steep slopes from above, their rotors churning the thin mountain air. The search continued for days, but the dense wilderness and the scale of the storm hampered efforts. The relentless rain and the unstable ground created a dangerous environment for the search teams. As days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. The official search was eventually called off, leaving the family with agonizing uncertainty and a gnawing sense of loss. The sisters, and their vibrant online presence, vanished without a trace. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains, once a source of joy and inspiration for Paige and Kara, now held a dark secret. The initial investigation into the disappearance of Paige and Kara Rogers focused on several possibilities. The most obvious, given the violent storm that ravaged the area, was an accidental rockslide. The Sangre de Cristo Range is known for its unstable geology, and heavy rainfall can trigger landslides, especially in areas already prone to erosion. Investigators considered the possibility that the sisters had been caught in the path of such a slide while camping near the alpine lake. Another theory explored was a wild animal attack. Mountain lions are native to the area, and while attacks on humans are rare, they are not unheard of. Investigators searched for any signs of animal activity near the twins' last known location, but the heavy rain had washed away any potential tracks or other evidence. The possibility that the sisters had simply gotten lost was also considered. The trails in the Sangre de Cristo Range can be confusing, and disorientation is a real risk, especially in poor weather conditions. However, Paige and Kara were experienced hikers, familiar with navigation techniques, and equipped with maps and compasses. Michelle Gonzalez, the twins' mother, struggled to comprehend the sudden disappearance of her daughters. In interviews with investigators, she described Paige and Kara as intelligent, resourceful, and deeply connected to nature. She shared details of their meticulous planning and their unwavering enthusiasm for their adventures. Michelle recounted the last conversation she had with her daughters, their voices filled with excitement as they discussed their upcoming climb. The uncertainty surrounding their fate was a constant torment, a wound that refused to heal. The remote location and the destructive nature of the storm presented significant challenges for investigators. The heavy rain had washed away potential clues and made the terrain even more treacherous. The vastness of the wilderness made the search area incredibly large, and the steep slopes and dense vegetation hampered efforts to conduct a thorough investigation. The lack of any concrete evidence, coupled with the difficult conditions, meant that the investigation eventually stalled. With no bodies recovered and no clear indication of what had happened, the case was officially suspended, leaving the family and the community with unanswered questions. The disappearance of the Rogers twins became a local legend, a chilling reminder of the unpredictable power of nature and the inherent risks of venturing into the wilderness. The story was whispered around campfires and shared among hikers, serving as a cautionary tale. The case remained unsolved, a lingering mystery in the heart of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Years passed, and the vibrant memory of Paige and Kara Rogers slowly began to fade, replaced by a quiet ache of unanswered questions. For Michelle Gonzalez, their mother, the passage of time did little to ease the pain of their loss. Every season brought a fresh wave of grief, every anniversary a stark reminder of the daughters she would never see again. Michelle continued to cling to the hope that someday, somehow, she would learn what happened to her girls. She kept their bedroom untouched, a poignant shrine to their shared adventures and their unfulfilled dreams. She revisited their blog, rereading their posts, tracing their virtual footsteps across the landscapes they loved. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains, once a symbol of Paige and Kara's adventurous spirit, now represented a profound sense of loss and mystery. The landscape itself changed over time. Erosion reshaped the trails, vegetation grew over the scarred earth, and the relentless cycle of seasons obscured any potential clues that might have remained from the night of the storm. The physical search for the twins became increasingly difficult, the vast wilderness swallowing any trace of their presence. Despite the official suspension of the investigation, friends and family never gave up hope. They organized private searches, scouring the area around the Willow Creek trailhead, clinging to the belief that something had been overlooked. They distributed flyers with the twins' pictures, hoping to jog someone's memory, to uncover a piece of information that might lead to a breakthrough. But the mountains remained silent, offering no answers. The disappearance of Paige and Kara Rogers was not an isolated incident. The vast wilderness areas of Colorado have claimed other lives, hikers and campers who ventured into the mountains and never returned. These cases, though tragic, underscore the inherent dangers of exploring remote and unpredictable environments. The unpredictable weather, the challenging terrain, and the presence of wildlife all contribute to the risks faced by those who venture into the backcountry. The Rogers case, however, remained particularly perplexing due to the complete lack of evidence. No bodies were ever recovered, no equipment was ever found, and no witnesses came forward with any information that could shed light on their fate. The frustration and unanswered questions surrounding their disappearance lingered for years, a heavy cloud hanging over the small communities nestled at the foot of the Sangre de Cristo Range. The case grew cold, the files gathering dust in a sheriff's department drawer, a testament to the enduring mystery of the missing twin sisters. 20 years had passed since the Rogers twins vanished into the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. The case had faded from the headlines, relegated to the realm of local lore, a tragic story whispered among hikers and climbers. In the spring of 2025, a group of experienced climbers were attempting a new route on the eastern face of Humboldt Peak. As they ascended a particularly challenging section of the climb, they noticed something unusual protruding from beneath a massive boulder. It was a tattered piece of fabric, snagged on a jagged edge of rock. Intrigued, the climbers carefully maneuvered closer, their curiosity piqued by the unexpected discovery. As they cleared away loose rocks and debris, the climbers realized they had stumbled upon something significant. Buried beneath tons of rock and earth lay the remnants of a crushed camping tent. The fabric was faded and torn, bearing the unmistakable marks of years of exposure to the elements. A sense of awe and unease settled over the climbers. They recognized the significance of their find, the possibility that they had uncovered a piece of the mountain's tragic history. They immediately contacted the local authorities, reporting their discovery and its location. Park rangers and sheriff's deputies arrived at the scene, cautiously approaching the site. The area was treacherous, the boulder field unstable and prone to further slides. The recovery process was slow and meticulous, requiring specialized equipment and expertise. The team worked carefully, removing rocks one by one, mindful of the fragile nature of the buried tent and its potential contents. As the tent was gradually exposed, the weight of the discovery became palpable. Inside the crushed remains of the tent, protected from the elements by the massive boulder that had sealed their fate, lay the remnants of Paige and Kara Rogers' final campsite. Crushed backpacks, their contents spilled and decayed, were nestled among the twisted metal poles of the tent. 2 weathered journals, their pages softened and blurred by time and moisture, lay open, offering a glimpse into the twins' final days. And then, the most significant discovery, a small, digital camera, remarkably preserved within a waterproof case. The camera was carefully transported back to the sheriff's department, where forensic specialists began the painstaking process of recovering its data. The images they retrieved were both chilling and poignant. The photos showed Paige and Kara setting up their camp, their smiles radiant against the backdrop of the towering peaks. Other pictures captured the stunning alpine scenery, the vibrant wildflowers blooming in the meadows, the crystal-clear water of the alpine lake. The final images, time-stamped just minutes before the estimated time of the rockslide, showed the darkening sky, the ominous clouds gathering over the mountaintops. These photographs, frozen moments in time, offered a heartbreaking glimpse into the twins' final hours. As investigators continued their examination of the site, they discovered something else that raised questions beyond the natural disaster initially suspected. Scorch marks, blackened areas on the rocks surrounding the campsite, suggested the presence of intense heat. These marks, seemingly out of place in the context of a simple rockslide, hinted at a more complex and potentially sinister explanation for the twins' tragic fate. Captain Julian McBride and Specialist Sophia Dunn, 2 seasoned investigators with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, were assigned to the reopened case. The discovery of the tent and its contents, along with the mysterious scorch marks, had breathed new life into the investigation, transforming a cold case into an active pursuit of the truth. The recovered journals, though water-damaged, offered a valuable window into the final days of Paige and Kara's journey. Forensic document examiners meticulously worked to preserve and decipher the sisters' handwritten entries. The journals detailed their progress on the trail, their observations of the surrounding wilderness, and their excitement about reaching the summit of Humboldt Peak. The last entry, written by Paige on the afternoon of July 12, described the approaching storm and their decision to secure their campsite near the Alpine Lake. The entry ended with a note of concern about the intensifying wind and rain, but also with an expression of confidence in their gear and their preparedness. The camera, remarkably preserved, held even more compelling evidence. The recovered photographs, clear and well composed, corroborated the details from the journals and provided a visual record of the sisters' journey. The final images, taken just minutes before the estimated time of the rockslide, showed the darkening sky and the ominous storm clouds gathering over the peaks. These images, coupled with the journal entries, painted a vivid picture of the twins' last moments, their unwavering optimism in the face of the approaching storm. The scorch marks discovered near the campsite became the focal point of the investigation. Initial theories attributed them to lightning strikes, a common occurrence during mountain storms. However, the pattern and intensity of the scorch marks were inconsistent with lightning damage. Specialist Sophia Dunn, a forensic geologist with the CBI, conducted a thorough analysis of the site. Soil samples collected from the area revealed traces of explosive residue, a finding that dramatically shifted the direction of the investigation. The presence of explosive residue suggested that the rockslide might not have been a natural event, but rather a consequence of human activity. The investigation now focused on identifying the source of the explosives and determining whether their use had triggered the fatal rockslide. Curtis Vance, a local businessman who owned a mining claim in the area, quickly emerged as a person of interest. Vance had a history of regulatory violations related to his mining operations and was known for his aggressive pursuit of gemstone deposits in the Sangre de Cristo range. Investigators learned that Vance had been using explosives illegally to access pockets of gemstones hidden deep within the mountain rock. His methods, considered reckless and dangerous by other miners in the area, had reportedly caused several smaller landslides in the past. Investigators also discovered that Vance's mining claim was located in close proximity to the Willow Creek trailhead, the starting point of Paige and Kara's ill-fated hike. The possibility that Vance's illegal blasting activities had triggered the rockslide that buried the twins became a central focus of the investigation. Michelle Gonzalez, the twins' mother, was interviewed again by Captain McBride. During this interview, a seemingly insignificant detail from the night of the storm resurfaced. Michelle recalled hearing a series of loud booms echoing through the mountains that night, sounds she initially dismissed as thunder. However, the discovery of explosive residue and the focus on Vance's mining activities gave new meaning to her recollection. The timing of the booms, she now realized, coincided with the estimated time of the rockslide. Michelle's recollection, while circumstantial, provided another piece of the puzzle, further implicating Vance in the twins' disappearance. The investigation into Curtis Vance intensified. Forensic experts analyzed the explosive residue found at the campsite, comparing it to the type of explosives used in Vance's mining operation. The results confirmed a match, strengthening the link between Vance's activities and the rockslide. Investigators also interviewed former employees of Vance, who described his reckless disregard for safety regulations and his willingness to use explosives indiscriminately. The emerging picture painted Vance as a driven businessman willing to cut corners and disregard the potential consequences of his actions in pursuit of profit. The circumstantial evidence, combined with the scientific analysis of the explosive residue and the testimonies of former employees, began to build a compelling case against Curtis Vance. The interrogation of Curtis Vance was a tense and protracted affair. Captain McBride and Specialist Dunn employed a carefully orchestrated strategy, presenting the evidence they had gathered piece by piece, slowly tightening the net around the increasingly agitated businessman. They began by questioning Vance about his mining activities, focusing on his use of explosives and his adherence to safety regulations. Vance initially denied any wrongdoing, claiming that his blasting operations were always conducted within the confines of the law and with the utmost care for the surrounding environment. He dismissed the scorch marks found near the Rogers sisters' campsite as the result of natural phenomena, possibly lightning strikes or wildfires. He maintained his innocence, insisting he had no knowledge of the twins' disappearance or the rockslide that had buried their campsite. As the interrogation progressed, McBride and Dunn began to introduce the more damning evidence. They presented the forensic analysis of the explosive residue, highlighting the match between the residue found at the campsite and the explosives used in Vance's mining operation. They confronted him with the testimonies of his former employees, who had detailed his reckless use of explosives and his disregard for safety protocols. They showed him photographs of the recovered tent and its contents, the poignant remnants of the twins' final moments. With each piece of evidence presented, Vance's composure began to crumble. His denials became less forceful, his explanations more convoluted. He shifted from outright denial to attempts to deflect blame, suggesting that other miners in the area might have been responsible for the illegal blasting. The key breakthrough in the case came from an unexpected source. A local prospector, who had been working in the area on the night of the rockslide, came forward with a crucial piece of information. He had witnessed Vance conducting blasting operations near the Willow Creek trailhead on the evening of July 12, 2005. He had been concerned about the intensity of the blasts and the proximity of the blasting site to popular hiking trails, but had been hesitant to come forward earlier, fearing retribution from Vance. This eyewitness account, corroborated by the forensic evidence and the testimonies of former employees, placed Vance at the scene of the rockslide at the time of the incident. It was the final piece of the puzzle, the definitive link that investigators had been searching for. Confronted with this irrefutable evidence, Vance's carefully constructed facade finally cracked. He confessed to conducting illegal blasting operations on the night of the rockslide, admitting that his actions had triggered the catastrophic event that buried the Rogers sisters' campsite. He acknowledged his attempts to cover up his involvement, fearing the legal and financial repercussions of his actions. He expressed remorse for his role in the twins' deaths, claiming that he had never intended to harm anyone. Vance's confession, captured on video, was a chilling admission of guilt, a stark testament to the devastating consequences of his reckless pursuit of profit. The meticulous work of McBride and Dunn, their relentless pursuit of the truth, had finally uncovered the secrets buried beneath the rocks of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. After 2 decades of unanswered questions and agonizing uncertainty, the truth had finally come to light, bringing a sense of relief, albeit bittersweet, to the family and the community. The trial of Curtis Vance captivated the small mountain community and drew national media attention. The courtroom was packed with reporters, onlookers, and friends and family of Paige and Kara Rogers. The prosecution presented a compelling case, meticulously laying out the evidence against Vance. They presented the forensic analysis of the explosive residue, the eyewitness testimony placing Vance at the scene of the rockslide, and the testimonies of former employees who detailed his reckless mining practices. The defense argued that the rockslide was a natural disaster, exacerbated by the heavy rainfall, and that Vance's blasting activities were not the direct cause of the tragedy. They attempted to portray Vance as a respected businessman who had been unfairly targeted and whose actions, while perhaps not entirely by the book, were not criminal. The jury, however, was unconvinced. After days of deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict on charges of involuntary manslaughter and illegal mining. The verdict was met with a mix of emotions in the courtroom: relief and a sense of closure for the Rogers family, who had waited 2 decades for justice. Shock and disbelief from Vance's supporters, who maintained his innocence. And a collective sigh of relief from the community, who had lived for years under the shadow of the unsolved mystery. Curtis Vance was sentenced to a significant prison term, a punishment that reflected the gravity of his crimes and the devastating impact they had on the lives of so many. Following Vance's conviction, authorities launched a renewed effort to recover the remains of Paige and Kara Rogers. Using specialized equipment and guided by Vance's confession, search teams returned to the site of the rockslide. The recovery process was slow and painstaking, requiring careful excavation of the area beneath the massive boulder that had entombed the twins' campsite for 20 years. After days of meticulous work, the search teams made a heartbreaking discovery. They recovered fragments of bone and personal effects, confirmed through DNA analysis to belong to Paige and Kara. The recovery of the remains, though a painful reminder of their loss, brought a sense of closure to the Rogers family, allowing them to finally lay their daughters to rest. The 20-year journey to justice had been a long and arduous one. The initial investigation, hampered by the remote location and the destructive nature of the rockslide, had stalled. The case had grown cold, the leads drying up, the hope of finding answers fading with each passing year. The accidental discovery of the buried tent by a group of climbers had breathed new life into the investigation, leading to the reopening of the case and the eventual uncovering of the truth. The meticulous work of Captain McBride and Specialist Dunn, their unwavering commitment to finding answers, had finally brought justice for Paige and Kara. Michelle Gonzalez, the twins' mother, found a measure of peace in the resolution of the case. While the pain of losing her daughters would never fully disappear, the knowledge of what had happened, the conviction of the man responsible, and the recovery of their remains allowed her to begin the process of healing. She established a memorial fund in Paige and Kara's names, dedicated to promoting environmental protection and responsible mining practices. She spoke publicly about the importance of preserving the wilderness areas that her daughters loved, urging others to appreciate the beauty and power of nature while also respecting its inherent dangers. The case of the Rogers twins served as a stark reminder of the fragile balance between human activity and the natural environment. It highlighted the devastating consequences of reckless disregard for safety regulations and the importance of holding those responsible for environmental damage accountable. It also underscored the enduring strength of hope, the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, the truth can eventually come to light. The mountains, once a symbol of loss and mystery, now stood as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of justice.